PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Evelyn's Roundtable is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and non-profit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, hello, Tracy. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to have you on here. We got so much to cover. A lot to cover. So can you just tell the audience, and I know you've been on my show before, a little over a year, but so much has happened
Yes.
in this year span, a lot has happened. So can you just introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. And it's great to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute. We talk a bit, but I haven't seen you in person or virtual. Well, no, I've seen you virtual, but thank you. So my name is Tracy Lewis. I'm born and raised here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am the president of Wake Up, co-chair of LAVAPSI with Camilla Bywaters and Nasia. And we're both members of the local chapters of the NAACP and NAN. Oh, wow. I've been in the field of education for over 30 plus years with CCSD. I did a year in the charter world. And yeah, I did. I'm just going to say, yeah, that, and leave that right there where it is. But I've been active in the community. I'm here to support and help in whatever endeavors need to be done. Primarily advocating and fighting for children, students, educators, if there's a need in any other part of the community, such as the city council, county commission, city of North Las Vegas, or city of Henderson. If we're asked to come in and to participate, we will do that as well. So I'm just here to help, just to be a service. You know, God put us here to be a service to one another. So I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. And if you're doing something silly, you're gonna get called out. And if I'm doing something silly, you call me out. So it goes both ways, you know. But for the most part, I've had a great deal of, I call them others, which are really strong women from all different cultures and backgrounds in my life that have helped to groom me to make me the woman that I've become today. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm just ready to indulge in the conversation to see what's what's going on.
I want the audience to know how we met and the reason why we met.
Oh, my girls, my buddies. Okay. I love them. I do. I love children. I deal better with children than I do adults. So I'm just going to put that out there. Excuse me, because kids are innocent. And kids know who genuinely cares for them or loves them or is sincere in helping them. And so if you are troubleshooting with a student in a classroom, in a school, or wherever, that means that student sees something in you that's not cool. If they're trying to love on you, that means they see something in you that's attracting them to you. Like animals, they can sense when
Mhm.
people love them or don't love them. So it's the same thing. We all have those intuitions, those gut feelings, and things of that nature. But yes, I met Miss Evelyn. I think it's been a couple of years now.
Oh, it's been more than, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
Um,
about 3, something like that, maybe a
right.
little bit more. Because Jordan was in 4th grade and she's in 7th now.
Wow.
So
We
so
old, but but yeah. So with my girls Jordan and Royale, we just been in this fight, and I'm gonna fight for students, irregardless of what the adults are saying. We know some of the things that are going on, but sometimes adults can provoke children. So it goes both ways. And there are some students or young adults or kids that can be very disrespectful. And then you deal with them accordingly. But for the most part, um, if a student is saying that there's something going on with an adult, take them at their word. And even if there's something going on in the home or outside of the home, if they're saying that there's something going on, that needs to be checked into or looked into. So we go back with Jordan, with I think it was
that
Brindley,
song,
Funk,
yeah, she
and
was
then
in
it was
5th grade.
Brindley. Yeah,
Yes.
Funk and Brindley. And
Mhm.
we just had to go in to address some situations that were going on in at the school at the time. And I think we got those situations worked out. And then we came over to what is it, Brindley, and now we're at Mackey.
Go Mackie.
At
Mhm.
Mackey. And so if things come up at Joe Mackey, here we come. Like enough is enough. I think in this educational system currently that we have, things are going to turn around since we now have a new superintendent, Ms. Joan Ebert, who was recently nominated 7-0 vote to be, our next superintendent. We've never had a female, so she's the first AAPI, Asian Island Pacificer, uh,
Mhm.
and female. We've never had one in Clark County. And so my argument with all of that has been, we have women superintendents across the nation, and their districts are doing well. And I've been knowing Miss Joan Eber for a really long time, so I think she's going to be fine. I can't wait to see what her dream team is going to look like, her cabinet level when I say dream team, because everything starts at the top and then it trickles down. So, with the previous administration, we we have seen so much that has happened. And so if the superintendent, whomever that may be, and then his or her associates aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and then that trickles down to the principals because the associate superintendents get to nominate who they want as principals in their schools in their regions because it's broken down by regions. And then from that, if the principals are acting a shebangy or, troubleshooting with the associate superintendents at the top, that trickles down to the next level, which is the teachers. And if the teachers are troubleshooting with the principal and the principal's troubleshooting, so it's a whole domino effect. But if it gets to the teachers, who's in front of the students? The teachers are. So then that's when you see, the crazy. And that's when we tell people just pay attention to who is leading your school, who is your associate superintendents over these areas. So I think once Superintendent Eber gets in and she's able to do a deep dive to see what's going on in all these different areas, we're going to see some changes. And at the end of the day, we're talking about student achievement. We're talking about academics. We've got to get our kids back on track. Clark County at one point in time, and this was many, 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 many years ago, but we were not at the bottom of the barrel. Like we were doing really well. Clark County at one point in time was actually ran by all blacks for the most part. We had our first black superintendent. His name was Carl Perkins. People think that it was Dwight Jones. Dwight Jones was our second black superintendent. And then we had about two Hispanics or maybe three in that window, but we've never had a woman. So I think having a female is going to change the dynamics because women come from more of a nurturing perspective than this, whatever these men are doing. I'm going to just say it like that because, we're not a part of the good old boys network because, we have those glass ceilings and things that we have to break. So I'm really happy to see a Superintendent Ebert in that role.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that other countries let women be leaders and presidents and have no problem with it? In United States, we come to a whole full smack up against the wall. Nope, we're not doing it. We're not having it. And I like what you said about the principals because I really think that plays a big part of it. And I really didn't really start getting into this. And I think it's something about the kids is what I'm saying about the education. And that's the other thing I feel because people are saying, well, I don't have any kids and I have grandkids but your grandkids are still in school and you should care about what's happening in the school. But it's done opened up my eyes to a whole scenario, especially when I was dealing, and I'm going to say Brindley. When I was dealing with Brindley, oh my goodness.
That was hell on wheels.
I was like, what are we doing?
Right.
And the grandbaby was getting bullied, and I had to call you guys to go up there, and Vatsy came up there and helped me, and Camille already told me that I was going to get kicked off the property. I was like, what? What do you mean I'm getting kicked off the property? I'm not even doing anything. I'm just talking to him. And that's exactly what happened. And then when I went to over her head, they said, oh, it's up to the principal. We can't do nothing about it. I went, well, wait a minute. I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, no, it's up to the principal.
Yeah, they like to deflect.
To me.
Yeah, they like to deflect. Ultimately, the way things are structured now, they're saying it is up to the principals because they're calling them the CFOs of their school. So they get to hire, they get to let go or surplus depending on, what's going on. But ultimately, when it's all said and done, it goes back to the superintendent. It goes back to those associate superintendents, whoever has been hired to be over those regions. And if you cannot work with those individuals, then that means they don't need to be in those positions. I mean, that's just my attitude about it. Because if I'm not doing my job, the first thing that's going to happen, we need to move her. We need to put her somewhere else. She needs to be where she can deal with people. Because a lot of these principals cannot deal with, well, I'm going to just say it, with black families, with black children, because a lot of the expulsions and things that we see in Clark County, they fall on the heads of black students, male and female, and then the Hispanics. So when all of these different dynamics are taking place, and then you have associate superintendents that's saying, well, we're going to leave it up to the principal. Well, no, then that means now you're just as equally responsible as the principal because you're that principal's immediate supervisor. And so people need to, we're hoping that people are learning and understanding these dynamics and how the chain of command works. Because we can go in and start out working with the family, with the administration of that school. But if they're going to turn out to be, butt heads, then we do the letters and we go to the next step. But ultimately, we go in, being open-minded, saying, look, this is the situation. How can we correct it? What are you willing to offer to the family, right? Or family, what is it that you're asking for? Because sometimes we don't know what it is that's going on once we get there until we hear all of the story. And so once we hear all of the missing pieces, then we can put things together to say, well, yeah, this can happen. And we've had that to happen in multiple situations at different schools, primarily middle schools. Middle schools, we're troubleshooting big time. Middle schools need some really, 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 really strong folk who can go in and deal with that particular age group, because their hormones are off. One minute they want to be babies, one minute they want to be adults.
Yep.
You got these up and down things that are going on. But a lot of the middle schools that we've had to deal with, the principals have not been strong. And they've primarily all been white women. And I'm not saying that they can't run the schools, but when you have a high turnover consistently and you're in the news consistently, that's a problem. And so there's a particular school that we've been troubleshooting with, and we're hoping that they will move this particular principal in the Northwest, because, the Northwest is just a hot topic right now because it's mostly Black and brown students there in that area. But with this lady, because she was connected or is connected to the former administration, they turned her school into a magnet school to keep her there. Well, just because you go and change the concept of the school does not make that person be any better. That means they're going to be a little bit crazier, because now they're bringing in a different type of a student into these schools. So I just tell people to be mindful of when they're registering their kids for schools, to go and see the whole layout, spend a day if they can, especially in the beginning of the school year, or even when they're registering for that following school year. So magnet schools, I suggest magnet schools. I've always told people, if you can get your student into a magnet school, that's the best way to go, right? Because they have a very rigorous curriculum. They typically tend to have licensed teachers, certified teachers, and depending on what that instruction is of that school, whether it's math, science, the arts, this, that, or the other, most of those people have gone to school to study those specific areas. So you're going to get trained people in those fields. I recommend it. My daughter went to magnet schools her whole career, and she's wonderful. And she went on to college and the whole 9 yards. Now, we do know all students don't want to go to college. That's not their thing. Yes. So in these high schools, especially in middle school, when they're getting ready to transition into high school, ask about dual credits, because they can start taking credits early on. So when they get out of high school, they already have an associate's, or they're working towards an associate's degree.
And yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And a lot of our students are not being told this.
Right.
And so when I have conversations with parents, I try to give them all of the resources that I have, that I know, to help them to navigate what's going to be best for them and their families. And then once they make up their mind which direction they want to go, if I can be a support, then I'm there to be a support, and then just kind of do like a follow-up. I don't know if I've answered all the questions, or if I done went off the rail talking about something else, because we all are off into the CCSD, but that in itself is a whole mess. But we get ready to clean it up.
Yeah. And so when you're starting to talk about trades, and I have an issue with that, because why are we not talking about careers to these kids? Why are we not doing that? And and I've been trying to implement that any chance I can. And with the school that that my grandbaby is currently in, I made a suggestion about a career fair, and they're like, oh, yeah. And then when they did the doggone career fair, I don't understand how you can send a flyer out about a career fair and then don't put a date on there. And then turn around and say, well, we just wanted to see how many people are going to be interested. Well, that doesn't make sense to me either. Then when I say there was no date on there on the flyer, then I get told, well, you should have told me that there was no date on the flyer. And I'm thinking, now, wait a minute now. I'm doing your job too. Like,
There's
come
too
on.
many people in the office staff to notify, you know, to notice that. Sometimes some things are self-sabotage,
I
or they don't think that
some.
the families, depending on the demographics, they don't think that they read. You have some families that don't. Maybe they can't for whatever the reason. You know, maybe they didn't have that growing up. But then you do have that other factor or section of families that they're actively engaged in what's happening with their students daily. And so, yeah, they're going to pay attention to dates, times, and this, that, and the other. Um, and they're going to question you. They're going to hold you to task. And at the end of the day, it's all about accountability. If you're putting something out there, then do it right. Like, and in the office staff of these schools, typically principals will delegate to their assistant principals, but then they have other, I call them eyes, to triple, double check to make sure if any information is going out that is correct and accurate. And so if they didn't do that, that was shameful on their part, because then that's a reflection of that principal, which sometimes when you've been at a school for more than double digit years, it's time for you to go. You need to go somewhere else, and you need to retire. You need to do something else. And it's
Yeah.
good if they can go and have different experiences throughout the valley. Because even when I was out there working as a support professional in that area, I knew how to deal with that neck of the woods, right?
Uh-oh.
As an educator, I knew how to deal with that neck of the woods, right? But to see the differences in how certain schools ran their day-to-day operations, what their staff, the climate and the culture looked like. That's huge. We had the worst culture climate in the history of Clark County School District right now, meaning that on these school campuses, people are not happy because of intimidation and the bullying. I mean, as much as the kids are getting it, the adults are getting it as well. And so that's why when I started out speaking, we have to make sure that the top, that they know what they're doing and that this stuff is trickling down in a positive sense. You know, they said if the head is bad, chop it off, or something about the snake.
Head
If
of
the
the snake.
snake head is rotten, chop it off at the
Yep.
top or something.
Yep.
But we have a lot of work to do. And
A
I'm
lot.
all in to support Superintendent Ebert in whatever capacity, whatever resources that I have that I can bring to the table to support her. I'm all in. And if folks ain't out there doing what they supposed to be doing, I'm gonna be out there like with my little notepad, my little phone, and I'm just gonna be, hey, look, this is what they're not doing. This is what they are doing, good, bad, or different, right? Because
Yeah.
at a point you get tired of hearing the negative. You want to find the positive, and there is a lot of good going on in the district, but because everything is so horrible, it's downplayed. You don't get a chance to see it or hear about it as much as you do the negative. So
Yes.
yeah, I think we're gonna be fine with Mama Superintendent Joan Ebert. That's a woman. And we come in with a whole different vibe as women. Yeah, we bring the flavor. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, we do. And as far as the women, do you feel there's more women teachers, or do we need to make sure the men teachers get in here too? Because I know there's a shortage in with the men.
Yeah, well, we need more Black males and Latinos because that's representation, right? But right now, the money's not there. They're not going to the appropriate places to do the recruitment. You're not going to find a whole lot of Black folks like in Iowa or, North Dakota, give or take. So you need to find where they are if they're interested. And then when people come in, treat them like they're human beings. That has been one of the biggest issues that we've had here in Clark County is that, especially when it comes to blacks, they do not want to treat them like they've gone to school for that subject area, right? To be a teacher or to be an administrator. And then they get rid of them. And then they're like, well, we have to go to these other countries to start recruiting. No, you have people right here in Clark County, Las Vegas, Nevada, right here in the United States of America, that's in Detroit and Michigan. We have people that have been here. You've gotten rid of them for frivolous, silly things. If they haven't made the news for inappropriate actions with students or monies or drugs, because that's a whole new big thing now. Administrators or teachers getting caught up with the drugs, excuse me, the drugs on campus and molestation and different things like that. Then bring these people back if they're trying to come back. If there's something that's been in somebody's file, say more than 3 to 5 years, and the person who put it in their file is deceased or has been longer than that, that person should be able to come back and go to work. You might, depending on what they put in there, be able to say, we're going to put you on a contingency. Like, we'll give you a year, extra probation or something like that. But when you are in a teacher crisis, and especially in special ed, you do not just get rid of people like that. So they got to do better when it comes to that. And that's been one of the biggest issues that we've been having, is that, they went to the Philippines, and that was not a successful deal because you had a culture barrier, you had a language barrier, you had an everything barrier, and then you got to deal with the visas. And, you have this borderline, is this like trafficking and all of that, like all of these statements and has come up because you got to deal with all that gray area that's going on with that. So no, I don't think we need to be going to other places. I think we need to deal with what we have in place, and like with us with NAPSE, the National Alliance of Black School Educators, reach out to them. That means that they're international and national. They have an administrator's, excuse me, an administrator's, a superintendent's leadership. So for the African Americans who want to be superintendents or associate superintendents, they have a whole academy for that. They give them a specific training for that. If you're trying to get into being a principal, they have an academy for that. Teachers, if they want additional training in certain subject areas, like they really need to check into that. And as long as we've been around, we've been telling people, now let's just take this back 30 years when Dr. Young and Marsha Irvin, Dr. Denson, Dr. Greta P.A., Miss Charity Bernardo, Miss Anna Jean Lee, like those were some of the people who were a part of and started LAVAPSE when it started. And so they would go to those conferences faithfully. And then as time went on and we got caught up with the other person, and I'm being nice, really, we're not saying his name and calling him out of his name right now. Things just shifted and went a whole different direction. And even with the Latinos, they have a whole organization and a whole group that does the same thing. Why aren't you reaching out to them? Why do you feel like you have to go outside of when you have people internally, right? You do have people in schools who are aspiring to go into leadership roles. But if they've made somebody mad, and if they're not a part of the clique, and if they're not going to do dirty work, meaning go after somebody to prove themselves, like almost like being in a gang, but they don't want to call it being in a gang because you got to get initiated, right? To see if you're going to do certain things. When you got all of that kind of pressure on you, some people don't want to put up with it. Some people will. Some people will sell their souls to just to become an associate superintendent or a principal or a coordinator, facilitator, whatever these different titles are, right? We just have to be mindful of how far do we want to go, right? I'm that person. I'm not going to sell my soul to the devil. I'm just take the hits. If you got a pen, I got a pen. We can do this all day. We're gonna write each other up. Let's just do it. You have your union involved, I have my union involved. And I tell folks, make sure you're in the union. You may not agree with them, you may not like how they're
Mhm.
navigating, but if you're not paying membership, they cannot have what are they called? We ours are called, they call when they go out in the field, but I can't think of what they're called right now. But when you only have two, and I'm speaking for support staff personnel, right, for Clark County, when you only have two individuals, that's to cover this entire district, that is next to impossible. But because
Yeah.
people rely on the
Yeah.
people that are in the union, they're going to reap those same benefits from the ones that are in the union because they're paying those dues. But just imagine if everybody paid union dues, you would have those. I have the title at the tip of my tongue, but I can't get it out. But you have those individuals to go into those schools to help you fight your battle. If you're not in the union, you're going to be put on the back burner because they're going to take the union paying member first. Of course, they're going to take that person because they're paying into the process, right? And so we try to get people to understand that. And at one time in Clark County, the teachers and the support staff, we were combined. And things happened and we ended up splitting up. And so you know, you have ESCA and then you have NSCA and then you have CCEA with
Okay.
John V and
Mhm.
that whole so even with ESCA, they're in a partnership with Teamsters. So support staff has two unions they have to deal with. They have ESCA and Teamsters because things just happen and folks didn't want to pay and they ended up
Right.
splitting. I mean, there was some other, behind the scenes stuff that was going on with that. But people need to understand what you see on the surface is just that. There is so much that happens behind the scenes in all of these areas that it's unbelievable. The meetings after meetings after, I mean, you get tired of going to meetings, but you have to go to the meetings to see who's going to say what, do what, when, where, and how come, right? Because if you don't know what's happening, you don't know who to target. Like if they're saying, oh, well, we don't need raises, who's in the meeting saying we don't need raises? Because I need to know that because I need to go have a conversation with this person, right? Like, because you can't come and tell me you're going to go to a superintendent and say we don't need raises when we can't even, we're sleeping in our cars and stuff, right? Because you
Right.
have a lot of support personnel, that's where they are because they're not making ends meet, even teachers. So it's a lot, and we try to get people to be actively engaged. And if they're not paying attention to what's going on now with this administration that's in the White House, they're not going to get it. Like, because everybody is being impacted by
Yeah.
everything that they're
Some type
doing.
of way.
And
Yeah.
tomorrow, yeah, and then tomorrow, which is what, Thursday, the 20th,
Yes.
they should be, they're shutting down the U.S. Department of Education. So we're going to see how that's going to go. We're going to see how well this is going to go over with the red states. And we should not have gone red here in Clark County, but that's a whole nother conversation about the Democratic Party.
That is. That's
I
a whole
would,
nother everything.
but everything, it starts at the top and it trickles down, and there's a cause and effect. And I just try to use common sense and some wisdom and some discernment. Like, I'm not saying that I'm perfect or just right on everything, because if I make some mistakes or I do something to offend somebody, I'm big enough to say, I'm sorry, I apologize to you for whatever it is. I can do that. There are some people, they
Hmm.
won't do that, and they're going about their business like nothing ever happened. That's your choice. But when it's impacting everybody, like now the dynamics have changed. So we're all in this mess together because people either chose not to vote or they voted talking about the eggs were too high or the economy
Yep.
was this or that, or they just took, this
Yep.
man They just thought he was joking. No, he's that Maya Angelou. Believe what he said the first time when he showed you who he is. That's
Yep.
where we
He
are.
said, well, he
He
did.
didn't want
He said what he was going to do. He said it.
yeah. And they didn't want a woman. And this is what happens. But you have women running countries and they're not having these issues. Everything runs smoothly and beautifully. And here we are, the laughing stock of the universe. Like, right?
Right
So
now we are.
yeah, we are.
Right now we are. And I want to get to, you're talking about outsourcing, because that's, again, goes back to trades. That's the same thing I've been saying. Why are we outsourcing when we have everything right here? We have
Yes.
we have people, we have experience, we have everything. And they still and we're and I'm really hoping Miss Ebert does get us from the bottom of where we're at, because what are we, I keep saying 59, but I think we're 58, something like that.
We're right at the bottom. I think we moved up a tad bit to I think they just recently said.
Yeah, I think we're 58 or something, but
I think
still.
Mississippi and Alabama is still up over us.
Yes.
They're doing better in education than some of the southern states. That in itself should tell you, okay, what are you guys doing? And then you have money. We have money here, so there should not be
Mm-hmm.
any excuses at all. And then now you have the sports industry here. We didn't have sports before. So you have what, the Raiders, you have the A's coming in if they're
Yep,
not already
the A's. Yep.
spring training or what you want to call it. You have
Yep.
Golden Knights, the hockey.
Yeah, we got
Uh,
hockey, we got football. We finna have the movies, right? The
right.
movie to help with the
The
movies or
studios
something.
and all of
Studios, there
that.
you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
basketball might be here too. Our own stadium for that is coming, and you're right. There's too much money flowing through this town for us to be on the bottom with
Mm-hmm.
education. And again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go back to, and that's the other thing with these kids. We're not, that's why I was not happy with Joe Mackey when I was going to bring in my union partners and my other partners to come help with Career Day. And then I didn't, then they told me I wasn't on the list and it was too late to get on the list. And so then when they're doing it, they're going to email me talking about, oh yeah, you can come and do it. No, what do you mean come and do a Career Day? And then even my granddaughter asked me, are you going to be there? It's like, no. I said, but I'm going to tell you, the typical careers that they keep doing is hotels. I'm not saying nothing's wrong with being a police officer, but that's what they do. They do hotels, medical, and police officers. That's the typical careers that they have there. But even though that's a tech school, right? So I'm like, okay, you didn't do anything to do with that, right? But it's to me, it's really messed up. But I really hope that she's gonna bring some things. I know she's talking about doing some things after school so the kids can get caught up on their education and their math and their English and all that. But again, like you just said, now the White House is getting ready to do an executive order on messing up the whole school system, and we're in session. We're in session right now, so the budget's been done. So now what's getting ready to happen?
Well, I think with Superintendent Ebert, we have an advantage, and I missed some of the conversation because I think that my laptop froze there. But she's the superintendent of public instruction, so she's at the state level currently. So this gives her an opportunity to make some things work where it's going to trickle down to help over in Clark County. That's my interpretation of all of this, right? Because
Right.
everything has policy and law, and then it trickles down, and then you have your school board, and then hopefully we know we have a couple of different ones on the board. I just say it like that, but that they're all on the same page and they can make things work together to move things forward because ultimately it's what's in black and white. What do the laws say? Does the policy say? Right? And
Yes.
she's been clear. They're going to follow the law. And so if what this current administration is doing and saying we want everything at the state level anyways, for the most part, then that means now the gaming industry has to take a stand, and the legislators are going to have to say, we need you guys to help us with more money. Where are we getting the revenue from, right? And so you got all of this, all of these moving pieces. And I'm not going to pretend to know all of this stuff, but when you have all of these moving pieces going on, you need people who are experts in these different areas. So I'm gonna say me, myself, Camilla, but primarily myself, I stay in the lane of education. That's what I know. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to be a legislator to say these are all the education bills, because I think right now it's over probably close to 300 education bills. That's just education. And it's tied up with different funding formulas and all of this other bureaucratic type stuff. We just believe in keeping things simple and to the point. Keep it simple. I'm gonna say silly and not the other S word, stupid. But I had to say it because that's a saying. It's simple, stupid. But just in education, we try to keep things simple. But you have certain adults that make it more complicated than what it needs to be. It's really just some basic common sense that
Right. I really,
just
really hope this. I'm really looking forward to her being on there. And then one other thing before we end, and this time has been flying by. And one other thing I want to ask you is, and I know you are wanting to have a school named after your mother. So I know you're working on that. And can you just tell us a little bit about all of that before we close out?
Oh, so yes. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, wow, it's been a minute with my mom. So the great late Martha Lewis was a community activist, and she fought for all children. She's also a foster parent. So in foster care, you don't get to say, well, you can, but she took in all kids, kids that had AIDS, that were wheelchair bound, just any child that needed a home. She raised her nieces and nephews, and she, was the oldest out of four, from Quitman, Mississippi. But one of her signature statements was, "I won't shut up, I won't let up, I won't give up until we all wake up." And so she would always go around saying that. And I was trying to make things make sense when all of this stuff was going on with the Prime Six, with LaBapsy, um, with the segregation of the schools and the NAACP. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff that's been going on that hasn't been that long ago. And so with my mother's fight, especially in historic West Las Vegas, with the sixth grade centers, for those who are not familiar, Kermit R. Booker is a sixth grade center. Joe Mackey is a sixth grade center. CVT Gilbert is a sixth grade center. Corner McCall is a sixth grade center. You come back up, you have Kit Carson, which is now known as Miss Helen Anderson Tolan, is a sixth grade center. And you have Matt Kelly. And you have Madison, which is now known as Wendell P. Williams. Then you have Mabel Hogarth. That's 9 Prime 6 schools. Oh, and then before that, you had H.P. Fitzgerald that was built out of this fight. So that's 10, I think. 10 Prime 6 schools. And we only went to school for kinder and sixth grade. Back I'm gonna just say back in the day. One of the things that the school district has not taken away is, on paper with the district, our home schools on paper are still our schools that we would have to ride on buses. So in the community that I lived in, I was zoned for Tamiyasu. So on paper, that's still my home zone high school or school. Chaparral would have been my high school. Currently, the way it's set up when they talk about community schools you have a choice of, if you don't apply to a magnet, um, my home school now, neighborhood school, would be Fitzgerald or Booker, depending with the boundaries and how AZAC has it set up. Middle schools would be maybe a Swankston or um, Sedway, give or take, right?
Okay.
Or no, West, because West came up out of this whole concept
That's
as well. But when my mother started her fight, it was because of her foster children. She had three boys at the time, and they call us family, and they had been sexually molested on their school bus. So in that fight, the Las Vegas Alliance of Black School Educators had a lawsuit going on. Wake Up had a lawsuit, and then the NAACP of that time, with some of the churches, had all filed with the U.S. Department of Education and the Justice Department in San Francisco. And then those suits started hitting at the same time. And this is where we are. We ended up getting Dr. Charles I. West Middle School that fight. We ended up getting H.P. Fitzgerald out of that fight. Those sixth grade centers became elementary schools um, from that fight. There was an economic boom in the historic West Side, the 89030, 89106 for jobs, because jobs came along, because jobs were created in the school district at that time. That's where you hear about the campus security monitors, bus aides, all of that came from those fights, and people don't know that, or at least the ones that were not around. Um, then you had some of the homes being built, and then the businesses started to come in to that corridor, that area, and everything. And
right.
so, before my mother passed, they wanted to name a school in her honor. And she said, "Oh, absolutely not, because I don't know when I'm going to act a fool, and I don't want to leave that legacy for kids to see. So wait till I'm older or deceased." And that was the same thing with Miss Tolan. They asked him around the same time. And Miss Tolan always wanted Kit Carson because she was the first Black principal, female
Yes,
principal, and
she was.
school
Mm-hmm.
psychologist, Black psychologist at that school. So that school went to her.
Yeah. She has that. She has
And
that.
since then,
Mhm.
the mom passed in 2022 of March. I've been trying and doing what I need to do to get a school in her honor, or to rename one of the sixth grade centers. I say family. My mom comes from a Judah family, a tribe. Um, Either CBT Gilbert or Joe Mackey. CBT
Okay.
Gilbert was a fight that she always talked about with my brother. I have an older brother. When he was because he was a young Black male and big for his size, they did not want to teach him. So she's always talked about that. So CVT Gilbert has been put out there, and then Joe Mackey has been across the street from Joe Mackey over in the area. But
Okay.
Assemblyman Harvey Pomford and Senator Joe Neal, before they all transitioned, they were actually fighting for a vocational high school. They wanted a traditional vocational high school, like how Votech is. But I want
You seem to be. You're cutting in and out, and I think this would be a good time to close. And I want to thank Tracy for coming on and giving us information about education, about everything. And I'm going to close with our mission statement for us to all hold hands as we rise, and to thank all of you for coming on here and listening to us tonight. and continue to listen to Evelyn's Roundtable. And I want to thank PR Connections and Dana for everything that she does, and really appreciate you. And again, everyone, please pay attention to us every first and third Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. And I just want to thank all of you. And again, let's all hold hands as we rise. Thank everyone.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.